recording now. 1 minute, yeah. So, ma'am, I'll start from here. Um, ma'am, my first question is that why did you choose the character of Nader Shah for your book?
So, first and foremost, I am in the process of writing a three-book series about the invaders of India.
Okay.
But I was very particular that I wanted to pick up those historical figures about whom not much is known. So, my first invader that I picked up was Genghis Khan, and the
Okay.
second one is now Nader Shah. And of
Okay.
course, there will be a third invader as well about whom I'll write. That was one reason. The other
Okay.
reason is the reason why I actually write historical fiction, because we have read about these historical figures in our history books, but we
Mm-hmm.
only know them for whatever they have done, their deeds and their acts. We don't know them as people. So my
Mm-hmm.
endeavor is to present these characters or these figures as human beings, having frailties as well as qualities, who have
Mm-hmm.
made mistakes, but
Mm-hmm.
also done things to inspire us.
Okay.
Like people like Genghis Khan and even Nader Shah,
Mm-hmm.
they actually had terrible circumstances in their life, and they
Mm-hmm.
rose above those circumstances to become what they did. So
Mm-hmm.
I would also like this. This is one other thing that I would like my readers always to keep in mind, that nothing is that bad. If you have the strength, then you will be able to overcome anything that is there in your life. If you have a dream, you'll be able to reach it.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful, wonderful. Ma'am, my second question is Nadir Shah's life an example of betrayal from the ones he's trusted? And does it teach that we should not trust people?
No, no, I don't think that is the message that we should not trust people.
Okay.
But you see, he was a very selfish and dominating person.
Okay.
And so he crushed any opposition that came in the path to whatever he wanted. Now,
Mm-hmm.
those people whom like he walked over, when
Mm-hmm.
they get a chance and they have the capability, they will also try to destroy him. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, if you give out suffering, it
Mm-hmm.
will return to you in
Okay.
some way or the other.
Okay, okay. Is he a likable character from the barbarism, destruction he caused, and why is it that kings who are bad occupy a major place in history chapters, and we remember them more than the ones who are good?
So I'll take the last part of your question because that is a very important part of writing history today. And many of the historical writers of historical books are taking this up, that why should history be only about kings and queens and conquerors? Why should
Mhm,
it not be about the ordinary people who actually influence history? So
mhm,
if you take a look at my books, whether it is Padmavati or it is Legend of Genghis Khan or The Curse of Nadir Shah, I have kept very important, I given a very important role to ordinary people
mhm,
throughout the book. So if
mhm,
you look at Padmavati, she had this companion called Ambika, who
mhm,
played a major role throughout the story.
mhm,
In the case of Genghis Khan, his nephew Shigi,
mhm,
who actually was the author of the Secret History of the Mongols,
mhm,
commissioned by Genghis Khan himself. And
mhm,
Genghis Khan was illiterate, but
mhm,
he made sure that his sons and this nephew
mhm,
knew how to read and write.
mhm,
And he gave a lot of importance to the opinions of this nephew. And in the story, you will find that we are also looking at Genghis Khan through this nephew's eyes. So there's
mhm,
a different viewpoint that we get,
mhm,
of Genghis
mhm,
Khan.
mhm,
And Nadir Shah, there is Lale, who
mhm,
actually, she falls in love with the Shah Banu.
mhm, mhm,
And she also, her acts and her deeds have also influenced the way Nadir Shah's life eventually went.
mhm, mhm. Okay.
So that is the last part, and the first part of your question: is he a likable character?
Mhm,
Because so much bloodshed and massacre and all that is connected to his name. No doubt, I agree that he was very cruel. In fact, towards the end of his life, he became a tyrant.
mhm,
But you have to also keep in mind things that we can learn from him. Look at his tenacity. He was
mhm,
only a shepherd's son, and he
mhm,
became the Shah.
mhm,
Also, people,
mhm,
he was one of the first, maybe the only ruler
mhm,
in during that time
mhm,
who became a ruler through the democratic process.
mhm,
People wanted him to become the Shah,
mhm,
and so he became the Shah because they thought of him as a savior of their country, which he
mhm,
was at the beginning. He
mhm,
he made their borders safe. He threw out the Afghan invaders, and the country came to know peace after a very long time.
mm,
So,
mm,
so he is important for that reason also.
mm,
Also, he was an excellent military commander.
mm,
He built the war machine, a formidable war machine in those days.
mm,
And if he won his battles, they were more because of his strategy rather than because he had a big army. And one very important thing that many people miss out is that, he was the first Persian ruler to
mm.
begin a organized system of collecting land revenues
Okay.
in Persia. So there
Okay.
are things about him that we can say that we should like and we should admire. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, there are also those things about him which maybe we should, we should do without, we can do without.
Mm. Okay. He's a self-made king. He rose from being a son of a shepherd to the Shah of Persia. So he faced a lot of hardships, and hardships make a person very hard-hearted. So his being hard-hearted, is it justified?
So, in those days,
Mm-hmm.
the way he became the Shah,
Mm-hmm.
he was constantly in war during, he was constantly fighting because he had to fight the rebels, he had to fight the Afghans, and war is not a very soft thing. It makes a person anyway aggressive, and he anyway was very dominating.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that in those days, if when he became finally the Shah and he got the throne, he could not afford to be soft. He had to remain hard-hearted. He had to, quell the people down under a iron fist, because just the way that he had taken over from the previous Shah, because the Shah was indolent, he was very soft, he was always afraid that same thing will happen to him. So he had to be hard-hearted. So that way you can say it was justified. But yes, a lot of things that he did towards the end of his life were sheer tyranny. So those, obviously, there's really no justification for it other than the fact that maybe he was, maybe he had become a little insane by then for various reasons. Again, there were reasons for it. There was always a cause for any action.
Nadir Shah is an example of rise and fall.
Right.
So, do you think everything that rises has to fall, and there is a law of karma which is associated?
Uh, Law of karma, maybe. I
Mm,
mean, possibly that there's a law of karma. But more importantly, you see, when he started off as the ruler of Persia, as I said, he was considered a savior
mm,
because he actually saved Persia
mm,
from the people around him. He kept all its enemies
mm,
at bay
mm,
because of the war machine that he had made. But what happened is after the invasion of India, when he came back,
mm,
in fact, when he became the Shah, he said that don't call me the Shah. I'm the Waline Mat, which means I'm the server of the people.
mm, mm,
But after the invasion of India, and then when he came back and he also, took over Turkestan,
mm.
Kazakhstan. Now, when he did all that, it went to his head to some extent, and he started calling himself the Shahenshah.
Okay.
At the
Mm,
same time,
mm,
he was always hounded by the fear of betrayal because he himself had been a traitor.
mm,
So
mm,
all the time he was suspicious. He was
mm,
suspicious of all the people around him.
mm,
And I would say that one was his ill health. He was pretty ill. He used to constantly vomit. Probably he had a liver infection,
mm,
and because of that, he was all the time ill. And because he was ill, it had an effect on him mentally.
mm,
But more importantly, the suspicious nature that evolved inside him, he even suspected his own eldest son, whom he loved, his
mm,
heir,
mm,
and
mm,
eventually he punished him very cruelly. And that punishment had an effect on him. He became, it was a torture for him, and he had to live with that pain every day. And when he felt that pain and suffering inside him, he just wanted to give it out to the other people. And so he became a tyrant that he was known for towards the latter end. And probably, he would lash out at everybody, anybody close to him, his closest friends, his loyal subjects, everyone. And eventually, then, what would happen? Obviously, they will all turn against him.
mm,
And
mm.
that is what brought about his downfall.
My last question is, what was the position of women then? They played a direct or an indirect role in the things that affected these kingdoms. And how has the role of women changed in today's context, according to you?
Okay. So, yes, women played a very important role in the history of those days,
Mm,
but it was from behind a curtain.
mm,
So we
mm,
all know about Ruqya Begum, who influenced King Akbar throughout his life. And, we know Nur Jahan was the de facto ruler of Jahangir's empire.
Mm-hmm.
So women played a very important role. And why should I only talk about Nadir Shah? If you go back to the 11th century, Genghis Khan, his wife, his mother, and his daughter-in-law contributed as much to building the empire and retaining the empire as it was, as his sons and his grandsons and the people around him and Genghis Khan himself. So women always play a very important role. It is true that maybe at times they have to be manipulative, maybe they have to be a little devious, but they have always wielded influence in building of kingdoms and destruction of kingdoms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now if we compare with today's woman,
Mm-hmm.
we could say that today's woman has the freedom to speak, to act, her thoughts, her voice, her actions are accorded the respect that they deserve. But I would still say that she is operating in a man's world, even now.
Okay.
This is my personal opinion, but I think the greatest contribution that a human being can do to humanity is the fact that a woman becomes a mother. Motherhood, I think, is the greatest contribution that she has given to humanity and continues to give. So the day people around her recognize that as an invaluable asset and facilitate the world around her so that she can do her job in the best way possible is when a modern woman will arise.
Yeah, ma'am, thank you so much for the knowledge which you shared, and I'm sure this book is going to do well, and it is doing so well, and my readers will look forward to the book. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Natalia.
you. Ma'am, I have the second part also here, which is for aspiring authors. I do this just for, for all writers who have a lot of questions running in their mind and they are looking for answers. So I did share the 5 questions with you. So I'll do that. I'll shoot the intro later on. And just add it with this. So, ma'am, here for aspiring, I'll start from here. So, yes, for aspiring authors. What is the biggest challenge in writing historical books or thrillers, according to you?
So for both thrillers as well as historical books, I think what is the biggest challenge is
Hmm.
research.
Hmm.
And research is imperative. You cannot do without it. And
Hmm.
research requires time, it requires patience, it also requires perceptions.
Hmm.
Because when you research, you will get a whole lot of information. What
Hmm.
of it will you use in your book and what of it will you not use is also a decision that you need to make.
Hmm.
So I, give a lot of time to research,
Hmm.
whatever it be, a historical figure, an historical event. I will research and I will research from various sources, not from one source.
Hmm.
Also, when I'm writing, I'm constantly researching, even when I'm writing.
Hmm.
So I think that is a very important thing. Another thing, which is particularly for historical writers of historical books, is that you cannot distort history and you must not distort history.
Hmm.
Whatever you write, even if it's a story, the facts must remain facts.
Hmm.
And you can weave your story through the facts, but you can't change those facts. And you should not.
Okay. Okay. What expectations did you have from yourself as a writer?
So the first expectation is that I wanted to be true to myself.
Hmm.
And so one of the things of being true to myself is that when I write a manuscript,
Hmm.
until and unless I am completely satisfied by it, and I'm sure that I've done the best job possible, I do not give my manuscript to anyone to read. That's one thing that I expect of myself. The
Hmm.
second thing is I would expect to write a book
Hmm.
which readers should just keep turning the pages and not put down until it's done. So
Hmm.
that is the expectation.
You have. Okay. Okay. What time of day is most productive for you? Like you follow a particular routine for writing and how many words? What is your pattern, ma'am?
So I think I'm most productive, during the early morning.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have a full-time job, so I'm not always available, at that time. Time is not always available for me to write. But what I do is I definitely make sure that I write every day. So whatever may be there on my agenda, I always make time for writing.
Like any fixed words like writers have, I'll write 1,000 words, 500 words, anything which you have?
No, not really, because I just
Mm,
go with the flow. So if there is a particular evening or afternoon when I can see that, I'm
mm,
able to write a lot and the thoughts are coming very smoothly, I can write, about say a full chapter, in
mm,
fact. But
mm,
if I find that, it's not really coming that way, I still try to write something, maybe a page,
mm,
maybe 2 pages,
mm,
maybe full chapter, but at least something. But what I've noticed is that if I consistently keep to this routine,
mm,
most of the time when I sit down to write, I think my, entire physically and mentally,
mm,
I have already told myself that I should try and write a chapter,
mm, mm, mm.
kind of a chapter, right? So I give myself deadlines. I
That's
usually daily deadlines that I must try and finish a chapter today.
okay.
So that is how I usually work.
And how much importance do you give to reading?
Very, very important. I
Okay.
think reading and writing are intertwined activities.
Mm,
You cannot separate them.
mm,
And
mm,
how can you write if you don't read?
mm,
And through reading, writers will be exposed to so many things. They will be exposed to ideas, they would be inspired by writers,
mm,
they would be exposed to different styles, they would be
mm.
exposed to language, which is a very important part of writing, and so many things. So I believe reading and writing go together, and if you want to write, you must read.
Okay, lovely. Ma'am, my last question is, what is that one tip you would give an aspiring writer who's really struggling?
So, one tip that I would like to give is that if you aspire to write,
Mm, mm,
don't take it as a hobby.
mm,
Writing is serious business.
mm, mm, mm,
Write every day,
mm,
and remember that if you don't take your writing seriously,
mm,
you can't expect anybody else to take it either.
mm,
So that I think is the final word that you can give to a writer, that write because you want to write
mm,
because you think that that is your passion, that is your vocation,
mm.
and write seriously. Don't, write casually.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for your time, and I'm sure all aspiring writers would have gained a lot of knowledge from your ideas. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank
Thank you so much, Natalia. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, I'll just take 2 minutes. I'll cut this part. I'll edit it towards the end. This is only on a personal level. Ma'am, you get your books edited when you give it to the publisher because I'm working on my own thriller.
Hmm.
So I always have these questions coming up that, for example, this Nadir Shah book, when you wrote it, so you got your own editor first to edit it and then you gave it, or it was just from your side final and you gave it to the editor?
So what I do is I give my final draft. As I said that I'm very particular about my final draft. I have to be myself completely 100% satisfied. So when I give it to the publisher, my publisher, Readomania,
Mm-hmm.
has an editorial, I mean, has editors. So it's given to them. So they take a look at it and they come back to me. Before I give it to the editor, yes, you're right about one thing. I don't get it edited, but I give it to beta readers. So people who, it could be friends, it could be, or, other authors who will be willing to do something like this. So they read my manuscript and they tell me where are the gaps, where I need to add more, where it is getting boring, where it, the pace is like falling. So they let me know all this and I do the corrections accordingly. If you read at the end my author note, I have thanked all my beta readers because their inputs are invaluable. So
Mm-hmm.
then I complete all that, make all those changes, and then I give it I give it to the editor. And the editor comes back to me and tells me that these are the things that I think you should change. Maybe certain things are not falling in. The consistency is missing, or one thing is not leading to the other. There is a gap. So then I do those changes. So I do work with this editor, at least for what should I say, at least 3 or 4 proofs before
Acha.
I
And how
go.
much time does it take, ma'am? About an year it takes?
Uh, no, not for me. It has not taken a year. It takes me from the inception, or rather, I would say from the research to the final printed book, 7 months.
Acha, okay, okay. 7 months. Matlab from your writing so you finish a book in 3 months perhaps and then do all this.
Yes, yes, yes. Then all the other work starts. A month, 2 months at least goes in all the other, this beta reading, then the editing, and so on.
Acha, okay, okay. And ma'am, I'm told that you have to spend a lot of money on marketing the books. Is it true?
It all depends on your publisher.
Acha,
So
okay.
if I mean I'm talking from the viewpoint of a publisher, because I have not done any self-publishing. So I actually don't have any idea what happens when you self-publish and what is the kind of money that you need to do.
Okay,
But
okay.
I have always published with Readomania, and what Readomania does is that it creates the opportunities for you, different
Mhm,
kinds of opportunities. For example, let me talk about launching a book. So when
mhm,
you have a launch, it's
mhm,
up to the author. So you
mhm.
can, the opportunity will be made for you by Readomania. They will tell you that this is this place you can have a launch and they have a slot and all that, and then you have to contact that person, that organization. And if you feel that you want to spend so much on it, then it's fine. If you don't want to spend on it, you want to spend a lesser, then you go back to Readomania and tell them that no, these people are asking so much. This is my budget, so I will
Acha,
spend only this. So Readomania constantly helps. Besides, Readomania has a lot of online promotions, huge amount of online promotions. And then, like the World Book Fair.
acha.
So you come there, you promote your book at the stall. Readomania will arrange for some panel discussions.
Mhm.
So you're not paying anything for all that, and promotion is still happening. So I think it all depends upon the publisher and what kind of marketing strategies the publisher has.
Okay, okay. Because I'm working on my novel and I really don't know what is the future, though I'm very positive that it should do well. I don't know. So it's my work is just to write and give the product. Now, whatever is the destiny of the novel, it will meet. So
Yeah, but then you should be ready to, if not spend, you have to
mm,
give time, in the sense that you have to spend time on marketing the book. You may not need to spend money, but you probably need to spend time. And
okay,
I
okay.
think you are based in Bangalore.
No, no, ma'am, I stay in Delhi, in
Oh,
Southwest.
okay, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. I couldn't meet you in person because of the virus, but otherwise, ma'am, you could have always come home and it would have been such a pleasure.
Same here. You could have come over to my place, and it would have been a pleasure as well.
Ma'am, anytime, please. And it would really be a pleasure meeting you in person. And yeah, I have so much to learn from you because I'm following the same genre. So I have really so much to learn from you.
Lovely. And I mean, welcome meeting you and, talking to you and learning from you as well.
Ma'am,
It's not
I think I can't do
animals.
anything. Ma'am, these readers which you get, I'm being told that you should not give your manuscript to anybody. People copy and all this. How do you get your readers? Are they the family members, friends which you give, or they are
Yes.
people? Acha, okay.
It is family members, friends, sometimes author friends on whom you have complete trust. So
Acha,
that
okay.
was one of the advantages of publishing with Readomania, because Readomania has a huge author community. And
Acha.
Readomania also has a online platform. So
Hmm.
we constantly are, we keep on having activities. So,
Okay.
for example, I'll just give you an example. Maybe another author wants to do a panel discussion.
Hmm.
She or he will probably call me and tell me that Shrutaba, do you want to come and be a member of the panel? हाँ ठीक है, आ जाते हैं. So we keep on doing these things for each other.
Acha. So which
Yeah.
other publishers don't have?
I am not sure. I have only published with Readomania, and the other thing I wanted to say is that I belong to the publishing industry, though
Yeah.
I don't I mean, my company doesn't publish fiction and trade
Yeah.
books. We publish school books,
Mm.
but I know a lot of people. I mean, I know how the publishing industry works basically, especially all these giants and all. So when I wrote my first book,
Mm.
fortunately, I met the owner of Readomania around that time,
Mm.
and though they were starting out, it was a startup. But I realized that, he's a very young person, very dynamic person. And I realized that instead of going to these giants who will probably put my debut book at the bottom of the list, probably not accept it, even though I know people, even though
Mm.
I would be knowing them personally, I
Mm.
felt that somebody like him, who would, for whom this
Mm.
book would be one of his first books, so
Mm.
he will also be interested in promoting it, because if he promoted the book, then his company would get promoted.
Mm.
So
Mm.
keeping this all in mind, I actually decided to go with a startup at that time, Readomania,
Mm.
and I would say I've not made a mistake. It was a very good decision I took.
Okay. Ma'am, whenever I get my book published, I'll contact you so that you can guide
Please,
me. I'll
please,
be
I'm
grateful.
always there for you. Don't worry.
Much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time and for all the lessons you've given. It's really, really very touching for me that I mean, I had just started this YouTube channel and you agreed for the interview as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natalia, and all the best to you. I saw all of your other videos as well, and they are very good.
Thank,
So, thank you so much for having me on your
thank,
channel.
thank you so much, ma'am. Take
Okay.
care. Bye.
When
Please
will
be
it
safe,
be,
ma'am.
when will you put this up? When will you be?
I'll tell you the exact date. I have the next week. I have Jivishu Aluwalia, the comedian, on and 8th and 9th. This will come.
8th or 9th of April.
Yeah,
Fine. Fine,
yeah,
because
this,
I'll also share this all over.
yeah.
That
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Need your blessings, ma'am. Thank you.
okay.
Bye, ma'am.
Welcome,
Bye.
Natalia. Bye. Bye.
Bye, ma'am.